The psychedelic revolution is here. If you want to integrate your visionary experiences into your purpose, get clear on your entrepreneurial path, and help people while you do what you love, then this podcast is for you. Welcome to The Psychedelic Entrepreneur, Medicine for These Times. I'm your host, Beth Weinstein. I'm a spiritual business coach, 3-time entrepreneur, and a lifelong student of psychedelics and sacred plant medicines. You carry your own unique medicine, and your medicine is what we need for these times. This podcast will help you to share your medicine so you can create transformation in the world. Listen in on conversations with psychedelic leaders, changemakers, and conscious entrepreneurs who are living proof that a better world is possible when you follow your heart and live in alignment with your soul. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Psychedelic Entrepreneur, Medicine for These Times. I am so excited to be here with my two good friends and mentors and healers, Antonia and Roger. Hi, Antonia and Raj. Thanks so much for being here.
Hey.
It's a pleasure to be
nice to be here.
Yes.
I have been asking them to be on this podcast for I don't know how long. I think since I launched the podcast. So I'm really excited for this, and we're going to dive into it. So I'll tell you a little bit more about Antonia and Roger. Antonia is an intuitive energy healer and a guide. She walks you through your worlds with you with exceptional safety and security throughout your paradigm shifts, holding you with love, compassion, grace, and skill in becoming realized in your divine expression, supporting you in living through your heart's intuition and guiding you towards embodying your innate essence. Antonia has been practicing and facilitating deep meditation journeys for 22 years using various modalities. You can find out more about her at illuminateyourtruth.com. She also leads a year-long immersive training, which I was personally in, called the Rainbow Bridges. It's at therainbowbridges.com. And this supports therapists, clinicians, practitioners, healers, body workers, leaders, change agents, facilitators, and consciousness raising evolutionaries. And it is an amazing, incredible program that I'm so thankful to have been a part of. And her practice embodies the integral evolutionary bridge of modern Western depth psychology medicine with Eastern alchemical integration methods of the ancients. Roger, who's also a co-facilitator of Rainbow Bridges and has also been an amazing mentor to me, is a somatic therapist, an awakening embodiment guide, and facilitator of transformational journeys. 17 years ago, inspired by an awakening, he committed himself to a lifelong path of rubber meets the road growth and sharing it with others along the way. Roger has been practicing and facilitating deep journeys and gatherings for over a decade using various modalities. In his session work, the transformative power is in the catalyzing field of co-regulated presence. You can start with anything in your life that is alive for you right now. The bodies and emotions are deeply affected by the shared inquiry process. As the deeper body awakens, discovers, and connections are made, deep feelings and tensions are contacted and worked with, and the body reveals its histories and developmental journeys. Together, he navigates with you in a safe, deep, and compassionate process towards naturally emergent discoveries. And Roger also has worked on incredible films, and together, Antonia and Raj are launching something new that I'm so excited about, and that's why I brought them here. Full disclosure here, they're good friends, they're mentors, and I have been working with Antonia for, I don't know how long now, a few years as my own personal, I don't even like to call her my therapist. It's like beyond therapy. It's always like a deep psychedelic experience without any psychedelics. So lots of gratitude to the work you're doing. Raj and Antonia, I would love to hear just very quickly, what brought you to do the work that you do now? You have studied so much, you do somatic work and these deep transformational journeys and now couples work. What's your path been?
So my journey began in a very profound psychedelic experience that changed my view of the world and taught me about the infinite nature of existence in a really profound, deep way. And my orientation has always been in relationships. And so tracking the relational space and the relationship between everything has been something that's been it's inspiring to me, and it's a part of my nature. So following that thread, I started doing body work initially, hands-on healing, and then started with hypnotherapy and traveling through time and space through guided meditation work and also intuitive tracking work. And then in Hakomi, which is a somatic body-based therapy, where we got to work in a presencing space, a loving presence space, a mindfulness space, to be able to deepen and understand the layers of truths that are guiding the ways that we relate to ourselves and the world and all of our relations, essentially. So having that deep wisdom and understanding different patterns in survival strategies and things like this has been informing my work with people and my own personal journey and our journey together in such a deeply profound way. And then, when Roger and I got together, we shared our passion so deeply around growth and introspection and finding each other in these deeper ways that together we have been able to do in this very intimate way. And so it's been informing this work that we're excited to share with you and the world.
Thanks for sharing. Roger, you?
When I was 21, I was working on a film and I overworked myself and went through a near-death experience. I left my body. I went into a coma and left my body for some portion of the coma, and I felt I had a choice to stay or leave. And when I came back, it was such a rock bottom moment for me that it made me question very deeply what I was doing with my time before that and what my priorities were and whether I felt I was living the life that really represented who I wanted to be. And that dramatically changed the course of my life. And right after that, I started to more realign all my values and started to and then I had experiences with spirit and sort of transpersonal experiences that opened my heart, filled me with compassion, made me realize that we're all connected and that this is a life to serve and to be a part of making this world something that reflects that heart of service and love. And then it's just been a journey of integrating that more and more into my life. And a lot of it's been a path of meditation for me and learning about the sort of psychedelic realms of the soul through the meditative path. And then I discovered medicines as a pathway to that same self-discovery. And it really helped me integrate and realize that the meditative traditions and the traditional medicine paths were actually hand in hand, and that there was a connection and a marriage between them that's real. And then meeting Antonia has been really a fulfillment on so many different levels of all the wisdom that she walks with and that I got to experience through the Rainbow Bridges course awoke me to deeper realms of knowledge and also more integration with all these different between the meditative path and the psychedelic path and the growth path. So and then our love is just something that we're excited to be, and the couples we've worked with, all this is starting to come together.
I am just so honored to have been one of these witnesses of like, oh, Roger's is this amazing new guy. And to see you guys blossom and to be in that Rainbow Bridges, which was almost a year-long container. And I always say, I personally am like, I want a relationship like theirs, because it is committed to this deeper level work and this growth and really this notion of healing together. I know a lot of people say, oh, relationship is the biggest healing journey. Relationship's all about healing. You attract in a partner to heal. But then when it comes down to it, look at our statistics, especially here in the Western world. It's like relationships are probably the hardest realm for so many people. How many unhappy marriages do we hear about, or divorces, or problems? And when I was in Rainbow Bridges, it was actually one of the first times where I really thought about this idea of healing in relation. Like I guess I knew it was happening, but I never consciously thought about it. Can you explain what that means to people? Because this whole episode is going to be about relation and relationships, whether it is, with a romantic partner or just in general. But what is this idea of healing or growth in relationship in relation mean, really?
Well, one thing we always say is we say that the wounds that we get in life, the things that are deep inside of us, they happen in relationship when we're growing up with our family, our siblings, and our schooling, and they're best healed in relationship. So things that happen in relationship are most easily and most deeply touched and healed in relationship.
Yes. And one of the most incredible golden nuggets about healing in relationship is some of the things we'll explore in this couples immersive this month long is around the ways in which we either can't find each other or find each other in certain conflicts where there's longing happening, and the push-pull dynamics that we find ourselves in relationship. When we can understand the depth of what we're remembering somatically, emotionally, sensorially, and we can speak from that place, then, and both people are doing that work together, that's the real opportunity to be able to heal in relationship, because we're taking responsibility about, okay, this is what you did. This is what I made up about it. This is how I feel. This is what I would like. What's that like for you? And then just, so it's like this taking responsibility for what it is that we're experiencing and understanding the pattern itself of what we made up about ourselves, what we made up about the world, and what we made up about the way we needed to act in order to have our needs met in the world, and projecting that onto our partner, yeah. So
Sounds so familiar.
Yeah. So when we can understand this a little bit better, then you can't unsee things that we see. And then that just starts to unravel all by itself. That knot in the relationship starts to unravel all by itself, both in relationship and in the field.
Amazing. So we're going to dive into this a little bit more, but a question that keeps coming up, which I'm sure I've asked you before in general, why do you believe that so many humans, or at least here in the Western world, or at least here in the US, where the divorce rate, I think, is like 50% or maybe more, why do so many people struggle with romantic relationships, partnership, marriages? And do you believe there is this kind of soul level, like, oh, I attracted this person because of the need to heal this, or, what is your theory as to what the issue is? I mean, I'm a product of divorced parents, and pretty much everybody I know is like, I've never had any models of really great relationships until you guys and maybe a couple other friends. But yeah, what do you think the issue is, like the core issue at the root of all this?
Well, one of our course is called Foundations of Thriving. So it's like, it is asking this question of what creates the foundation for actually thriving, not just surviving and dealing with surviving all the time and the challenges that couples are going through. And I think that the fundamental thing is a growth-centered mindset as an individual, first of all, because like you were saying, we get pulled together for a reason, a season, a trauma, or a lifetime. And it can be all these reasons combined sometimes why we get together with someone. But being able to be interested in growing through whatever the reasons are and using them as lessons, it's a practice that is something that we develop over time, a skill set of having a growth-centered mindset and being able to use the challenges of a relationship towards our growth becomes a framework that makes a foundation. And then when both people have that framework, you get a whole nother world opening up, and it's very different foundation to be working from, because now conflicts become opportunities more and more. And so it's a practice, and it's, a lot of people say that they have a growth mindset, but it's something that you want to see reflected in your week, in your way of approaching. It's a priority that takes some time to center around. But when both people have it, this is a foundation for thriving, and is kind of at the center of our first day of the month long is going to be there's going to be a ceremony to invite people into a deeper container together with that at the heart of it.
Yeah, with intentions and really setting the tone for the whole journey, because it's going to be a deep soul journey. And so, I mean, with regards to what you were saying about divorce, it's when people don't have the growth mindset, or they say they do, but they don't, and they're living in a paradigm of blame, shame, self-righteous indignation, and all of the unconscious core behaviors that are coming from childhood, all of these frozen psychic time block memories that are alive in the present moment. That's who's having a conversation or not having a conversation and hiding. So it makes sense, when they don't teach us these things in school when we're younger. We're not relationally adept. So being an emotionally illiterate society, like Roger always says, that's why there's so much divorce, because people see things as a dead end, because we don't have the insights, and we don't have the tools to be able to meet each other in a different way. And we come from also a culture that's very like next.
Yeah, and you said it, emotionally literate society. More and more people I interview over the years have been talking about this kind of missing piece, that we went through all this schooling and education, but we've never really taught to tune in and tap into our emotions, and then how to actually process through them and heal the traumas. And then, of course, we get to this path of awakening and growth, or psychedelics or therapy or whatever it is. And it's like, oh, here I am, 40 years old, starting this path. And it's a deep journey. And, before I go, because I do want to start diving into these deeper areas you mentioned, into the patterns and the woundings. But I do have this question that's kind of in the back of my head, because I've interviewed some people over the years, and more of the mass media is talking about, let's say, MDMA, becoming legal in the next year and a half or whatever it's, on course. And there's all these, discussions about, oh, maybe MDMA therapy will just save all the relationships, or it'll heal everybody, or this made my marriage work. Like, what are your feelings on that? And is MDMA like just this magic pill that's going to solve everybody's problems?
I would say there's value in MDMA. I mean, MDMA relationally, working with trauma, working with, complex PTSD is incredibly effective. There's also a lot of people on different kinds of medications. There's a lot of different kinds of contraindications. There's a whole process of coming off of medications. And I'm not anti-medication. I think that everything has its place, and it's all in the dose and in the intention and in the supportive work and the wholeness of how we work with these medicines. I mean, in our experience, my own personal experience, and in our experience with couples, and yeah, deep transformation happens. There's deep, deep change that happens that's lasting. But it's not lasting, I find, if there isn't more understandings of the deeper layers of what it is that we're working with and what unconscious behavior is in the background, because we can have an experience and be very heart-centered, and we can get mileage in a session with our loved one. And then when the experience is over, it's easy to just go back to some of the same dynamics again. So it's temporary relief. One of the things that I'm thinking about as I'm saying this too is tracking and being able to track growth and our relationship being a place where we check in, how was this week? How was this past year? What were the insights? How did we grow? What did we learn? And to really celebrate those things together, and to keep a log of what's happening. Because it's so easy. It's like keeping a dream journal. Life is a dream, right? We're walking in this living dream. But if we don't write things down and we don't actually track them, then it's easy for them to get lost.
It definitely feels like the targeted support and the attention to these deeper layers is what makes the medicine work more lasting.
Yeah. Let's dive into this a little then, because, I'm sitting here thinking about my past relationships and the things that I've been processing. And I've always been interested in this as well, coming from, at a very young age, witnessing my parents divorcing and wondering what went wrong? Where was this disconnect? Especially when people want it to work. That's the interesting thing is when I was older and asked my parents about the divorce, it was like, wait, why did they both say they wanted it to work and then it didn't, But let's get into this. What is the premise of the work that you do with couples? And I experienced some of this just being in Rainbow Bridges, even though I was not in there with a partner, but just these deeper layers of the going into the core patterns and the wounding and seeing what was really running the show. Is that what you're doing with couples? Can you kind of dive into your process of how you approach couples who, let's say, keep running into the same issues over and over and over, and they want it to work. They're both committed, but they're bumping up.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing that the individual work that was happening in Rainbow Bridges, it really is the foundation for relationships as well, to be able to be conversant in first understanding our own what's going on. And there's a lot to discover. We're a lot more, this is a big ship to drive, the human vehicle. There's so much happening in here. And I think our culture as a whole does kind of overlooks and minimizes what we're carrying inside of us and our emotions and our experience. So getting really under the hood and discovering ourselves is the first component for each person in the relationship. And then they can bring that deeper self-understanding. And what we're doing is helping them as they go together in that process.
Step by step.
There really is so much to discover in ourselves first, with our reactions, our core feelings, our compulsions, and it affects our work. Every part of our life can up level.
Yeah, I'm thinking of an example of a couple that I worked with. The husband, they had a dynamic, an experience like a dance where she would feel kind of smothered and have a lot of anger and frustration, and then he would feel anxious about needing to be connected, and then angry also. And so they had this blame thing, and it was a lot of explosive anger that would happen between the two of them. So what we got down to, because he didn't want to talk about his childhood. He was like, no, I had a really wonderful childhood. when we really dug in a little bit more about by him presencing and kind of letting himself really feel the sensations. And I asked him, what does it remind you of in your childhood? His parents passed. So that was one thing. And then his aunt and uncle took care of him. And in that dynamic, they had other kids in the house. So his space was encroached upon a lot. So there's loss and fear of loss, and then the space that's being encroached upon. So there's this dynamic. And she also had quite an abusive, a lot of gaslighting and things when she was younger. So had we not gone into that feeling, the core feeling of the anger, the grief, and then the shame, because he thought it was his fault as a young child that his parents went, not a rational thing that he was trying to rationalize. We came to the pattern, we came to understand it. And then the intimacy dropped in between the two of them because they could really see and understand what the real conversation was going on. And then they were able to contact that and then meet each other from those places and then change the dynamic of the relationship, consciously meeting these younger parts instead of unconsciously doing it where it becomes codependence. It's actually, this is a practice that we're doing and we're integrating the past and we're integrating the child, and for them, both of them, to continue to do that work separately. So I like to work with couples. We both do this separately and then together.
Oh, I love hearing that story. That's such a great example of like the depths of where this can all go. The one question that keeps coming up for me, probably because this is like my own personal experience. What happens when there's two people in a couple in a relationship where they've grown and they keep learning and they grow, but then maybe it gets to the place where, because we've all seen this too with just people we know and friends and couples out there where, one wants to keep growing and is willing to go in and do the work and kind of dig deeper and face the wounds. And then the other is like, I can't handle anymore. Like it's too painful, or I don't want to dig into my past, or, I'm comfortable where I'm at and I don't want to work at this relationship. Then what? I mean, is that kind of like the breaking point where you just say, oh, okay, this is like on to the next? Or is there hope for people that are kind of at these different levels? Because I meet people like this all the time who's like, oh, my partner doesn't go, isn't on this path with me, or won't go work with medicine and I will. And so I'm growing a lot quicker, or I'll go to therapy and he won't, or, something like that. Like, is there hope, or is there, what does it take?
I mean, I think that there's always hope, and there's definitely, sometimes a person may not want to go one route, but they may be willing to go another route. And in the past, we've thought how important it is to have an offering, because in some ways it's hard if you're learning something on the side and you're bringing it to your relationship, mm-hmm. and then you're like, oh, come on, just see this thing that I want to show it to you. And the other person isn't there with you learning it at the same time. So there can be all these disconnects if you're not learning the same thing at the same time. Mm-hmm. And so, it's one of the reasons why we've been itching to make this and have been planning it for like a year and a half now, mm-hmm. is because having an offering where they can come together and be met as individuals and respected and go through a journey together, developing skill sets, it opens up new vistas that, so having something like this feels like a great pivotal point for a couple who's maybe one person is more on the growth edge or something like that.
Yeah, maybe somebody doesn't want to do medicine, and that's okay. And this is, it's like there's somewhere they can meet. And one question, when I heard you ask that question, that popped up for me was, what's the nature of the fear? Like, what is that part of you that doesn't want to feel something? Like, tell me a little bit more about your experience, and they might be like, I don't know, but I just don't want to, Okay, well, what about our relationship? What is it about how does that dynamic play into our relationship for you? it's like a process of just constant, like inquiring about what the fears are. And then having a conversation about that. Nobody needs to be right about anything. There's no wrong or right. It's just like, okay, well, that makes sense. That could be scary. It's like that 70% rule. You go into a relationship or even with a puppy that's been, traumatized. You don't just go in, it's like when we meet each other with compassion and curiosity and wonder, then, and a consistent trustworthiness, then the relationship we have a much different experience.
But sometimes it doesn't work as well. And, so.
Yeah. And sometimes it doesn't work as well.
And there's that reality. Yeah, no, this is really incredible because I do agree. It's like you mentioned the word curiosity and compassionate, and also just like the inquiry, because it doesn't have to be this notion of like hard and heavy and painful and work, and it could actually just be like getting curious and just being open-minded and being present. Let's dive into a little bit around like the kind of modalities you're bringing into this program, because I always say, I'm like, she has studied everything known to man. And Rainbow Bridges, we touched on so many amazing modalities that it was like, I mean, there I was, not even a trained therapist, and had the most amazing breakthroughs just in these tiny little sessions with my peers. But what informs this program that you've developed for the couples? Like, what work do you like, and what is the kind of the nature of the different modalities that are informing how it works?
Well, we really love the 5 Personality Patterns book by Stephen Kessler. It's a profoundly simple but deep dive into really realizing the fundamental patterns that are driving our life. And we are combining those kind of deeper tactile understandings of ourselves with what you were saying about curiosity. There's a powerful journey to be made with actually becoming interested in ourselves first and curious, and then bringing that to our relationship. And it opens up a different way of relating, a presence-based way of relating that takes the edge off, like you were saying, this pressure that we have to always have our emotions and everything in the right order to present ourselves to our partner or life and be on our A game all the time. It's like there can be so many ways in which that can be softened, and we can be allowed to be seen in more intimate terrain and more vulnerable terrain. And it opens up a whole new world of intimacy to be able to be in that presence and curiosity.
Yeah. So working with these body-based inquiry, holding loving presence, trusting our own wholeness, trusting the process of the body revealing through sensory experiences, through these practices where we can drop in a little bit into the deeper layers, deeper than what our mind kind of tells us. We incorporate what the mind is sharing also, but it's a practice where we can, as a couple, just explore, and in this exploration, we get to feel what the meaning of these things are for us, what the meaning of these things are for our partner, and what the meaning in the relationship is. Each relationship has its own third entity, its own superpower, where we can use that as the honeypot of resource as a couple. So it's like continuing to use that as the resource as a couple as we're doing this inquiry process.
The other thing we're bringing in is, with all this understanding of where we're at and where the other person in the partnership is at, bringing in communication skills from those places where it's like we understand what our fears and core system is doing, and we understand theirs. Now, how do we navigate conflict, requests, agreements, apologies, making repair when there is a conflict? How do we meet again in the heart and find ways to reinforce intimacy through conflict, turn it into something that actually deepens trust. And so, yeah, we're working with communication skills, and all of it is really centered on experientials. Like we say that like knowledge is only power when it's applied. Then it's power. It's not really power before it's applied. And so we're doing like every day is full of experiential, so that couples will actually be on the ground practicing things, figuring out how to work with them together, and getting familiar with it in their embodiment.
I love it. The experiential of it. And yeah, this sounds amazing and actually like fun to someone like me. The one thing that I'm wondering about is, you tend to attract medicine type people, people like me who've been on this path for a long time. And I've heard people say like, ayahuasca saved our relationship, or we're just going to go do mushrooms together and this will just, be the be all end all. I'm curious, how does this also work together with people who are on this path of exploring, the medicine work and maybe energy and somatic therapy modalities? Like, how is this complementary? And like, does it kind of cross over and weave into this path of, like the medicine and like what comes through the medicine work? And I'm curious, like, has this program been informed by the medicine work of your own personal path?
Yes. The medicine path has informed most of it in a way that we were able to really suss things out and learn directly about how some of the patterns and some of the deeper textures and things of our belief systems show up. And so being able to contact those together with the wisdom and knowledge of the survival strategies and the communication skills and the boundary work in the loving boundary work, where there's like, oh, I can understand where this feeling is coming from or where this anxiety is coming from. And we could meet it in a way that's safe, and there's a consistency, but there's also a safety and a love in meeting it, so it's been a flowering that's been so empowering. It's been empowering. So we talk about power in this immersive also, of the power of connection, the power that we get to embody.
We've been doing medicine work with couples where the medicine helps to go deeper into these understandings.
Yes.
And it really is like very similar when we are using our consciousness and we go in, as it is when we add a deepening journey with medicine.
Right.
And so it's also been inspired by directly working with couples in medicine space and being able to facilitate in that way. We're going to be giving a similar offering with the medicine, not in the month long.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So when couples come to work with us, we work with them individually, each of us individually. And then together, we work with them as a couple, preliminary sessions for periods of time, getting real core shapes. Then for a week, they come and we do a week-long immersive with space in between so that they can integrate on their own, work with each person individually, and then together as a couple.
Amazing.
And then we have integration sessions. So it's incredibly profound what happens in people's relationships, in themselves, in their life.
It's all intertwined, right? Yeah. Let's go deep into that thread that you wanted to go into. Was it around this like the depths of the work or the patternings, or?
the thread that I was kind of feeling into is around power and feeling our own power and the relationship between power and what we meet sometimes of this belief around if I lose my if I want to maintain my power, then I need to keep my distance, or if I want to or if I don't want to lose the relationship, I need to abandon my power in order to stay in connection. So what that is essentially this process of this is rapprochement process, this individuation process that consistently we make throughout life of this whole process of becoming an individual. And so when we can support one another in relationship consciously in whatever sticky dynamics that are there and healing those in the relationship, it's empowering ourselves and each other to own that, because oftentimes, there's different relationship dynamics where one partner is intimidated by the other person's power, and then there's this one up, one down thing that happens, and these struggles,
Yeah.
And so essentially what that is, it's just we're trying to individuate from our parents. We're trying to experience ourselves as individuals, but we didn't have a good experience back then where we felt confident to go off on our own and have our own experience where we can look back and mom and dad's there. Like, it's okay. You can come. If you get scared, you can come back and then you can go again. It's all like, is it okay? Looking to the other first for their reaction and then responding from there, or being smothered by the parent and then wanting to be away.
Yes. I'm sitting here going like, wow, that's been a pattern and a problem throughout multiple relationships I've had where, it's like, I want to, when you love somebody, you want to make them happy and please them, but then you also want to be your truest self and in your full power and sovereignty. And it's been a hard dance for especially someone like me who's tends to be very, I don't know what the word is. I've heard everything described, but like not like I'm not kind of the passive type person that just sits there quiet, right? Like I have a voice and I'm a double fire sign. And so that actually speaks a lot to me where I was like, yeah, that's actually part of the issue is trying to figure out who you are in relationship too. And to like be your truest self and take off all the masks, but then also have this consciousness and this awareness of this other person. And it's been a hard dance. And I more and more, I think people have addressed this around like, the modern day woman as well. Like I come from the type of family where it was like my mom's generation, one generation ago was taught, you get married and you have kids, you kind of suck it up. And that was not that long ago. And the generation before that, someone like my grandmother didn't say or do anything. She was kind of just like anything you want, and it's so interesting how our society has changed so much, and it's been kind of this confusion and this dance of, and now I think a lot of women are trying to figure out like, how do I be in my feminine, but yet be in my power, and men be in their masculine without, overpowering and trying to get this balance. And I'm wondering, do you touch on this kind of masculine feminine journey? Because I think that's one of our core issues in our entire society, right? On some level.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And it is what when we put in the title, harmonizing connection and power, that's really what we're talking about, is these different polarities and how to bring them together in a way that we can still be ourselves while we can be loved and love. And so how do you get to still maintain your individual unique self, your own personal impressions of the universe, all the uniqueness of you, without either giving it away, or you don't get in the old school masculine way. It's you can be yourself, but you're not in a loving, harmonious connection. It's a sort of dominating space is the old patriarchal view of connection, and it's an impoverished thing for both partners. And so we're really looking at awakening that responsiveness and that relationality while also still having power.
Yeah, that speaks to me a lot. Even the word power. It's like my last relationship, which actually was quite good, for the most part. I would say compared to the average couple in Western society, or at least here in the U.S., it was actually probably considered very great. But there were some of these same issues, like the balance and the power, and I constantly felt like there was this weird power dynamic that was never addressed or spoken about. It was very like subconscious, and it was funny because we were both so aware of our stuff. We had both done so much work, and we were aware of our patterns, but still there was these moments of like offness that I couldn't pinpoint, and I think he couldn't pinpoint, and it eventually just got to that breaking point. And it was unfortunate, but it was a gift, and I'm so grateful for that journey. But it really led me to deepen into this exploration of how is this done? Like, I even used to say it to him. I'm like, how do couples make it when we're people that have been doing 30, 40 years of work, and like we can't even figure it out? How is this possible? And also, another thing that keeps coming up is like, well, I've gotten to that point sometimes where I'm like, what's the point of this all? Maybe it's just easier to be alone. Maybe it's easier to just isolate and not deal with human beings ever. Like I hear people say this a lot. Recently, I was in a container where someone's like, wow, I love this so much and I love all of you, but I hate people, and there's a lot of people that are feeling that, like this need to be connected to others, or need for love or relation. And then also like, oh my God, the state of the world is just so crazy and I can't deal with people and I just want to be away from everybody. Is this something that you've noticed as is this caused by these kind of power dynamics or these patternings that we're all carrying? Like, because I'm sure you've heard these two extremes as well in your practices.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like what you're describing has to do with individuation, and just needing that space and time to be able to feel oneself. Because oftentimes we're moving from, there's our false will. There's the will that comes from wanting to be in connection, please and appease, or wanting to, being outwardly compliant and inwardly defiant, and kind of taking up space psychically, and not like, kind of to what you're speaking to, that we can't quite pinpoint what that is, but we can't quite find each other somewhere. So there's these frozen psychic kind of time blocks that we're navigating from, and there's the psychic conversation that's happening that is challenging to pinpoint exactly what it is that's going on. But the paradoxical the polarity, there's something depolarizing about that. So it's like one person's wanting to be in their polarity and the other person's wanting to be in their polarity, whatever that is. It doesn't matter, sexual identity and things like this, but it's just the nature of masculine and feminine. And where are we being inauthentic somewhere? And what's scary about owning that? And what do we bump up against in what the true nature of our polarity is? And so it's like the relationships, sometimes we meet in this 50-50 space where we want to meet each other 50-50. There's a balance. We want to feel safe in the relationship, And then there's an evolution that happens after that where we polarize more, where it's not equal per se, but it's more authentic and there's more harmony, because we can navigate, we can be in one polarity and then in another polarity and kind of travel inside of those polarities in a fluidity that doesn't feel sticky. It feels more. What would you say about that?
I'd just say, yeah, these like the deeper conversation over power and over safety in the core of connection, and why a lot of us want to be like done with humans is is a lot of times, there just isn't that accessibility to go down deep with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be exhausting to be in, with around family members or around in groups where people are being consistently inauthentic and not able to access their emotions.
Right.
It can wear us down and we can feel tired. And there's some deep truth to that, of feeling like I really want to be around people that see me and that understand and hear, and we can all talk on that level. I do understand that that's what we're also really working with here, is creating a space for us all to be accessing those deeper levels. And it's fulfilling for community as well.
Beautiful. I love this. And thank you so much for clarifying that. I'm like, yeah, that sounds like me. Well, let's take a few minutes to hear a little bit more about this program that's upcoming and what you also offer besides this program. And by the way, I cannot highly recommend their work enough. I personally am like telling them to save me a spot because although I'm not currently in partnership while we're recording this, I am manifesting a partner just so I can take this course with them. Seriously, that's how strongly I feel. I'm like, wait, what? It's only for couples. But I cannot recommend their work enough. It's been very transformational for me. And I really personally, on a deep level, believe that this work in relationship especially with romantic couples and partnerships, is going to be more and more important during these interesting changing times that we're in. And it's not just the psychedelic, or it's not just the magic bullet, but it's a lot of this deeper level work of understanding who we truly are and these patternings that have been running the show for so long, so that we can start to take off that mask and come into our fullest expression, which, like you said, it's better for ourselves and our souls, the partnership, and the larger community, which is all for the larger good of the whole. But yeah, let's hear more about your program and everything else you offer.
It's a seven-part program over a period of a month, and it'll be over Zoom, and there'll be lots of experientials. So we can get a little bit more into that. But then afterwards, we're going to have an in-person retreat available for people who took the month long, and that will be in
January.
Mm-hmm. So it's in November. In November, we have the month long, and then in January, there'll be an opportunity for people to go
in person.
Deeper in person. Then we're also doing our private retreats with couples, and I have my one-on-one practice, and Antonia has her one-on-one practice, and
somatic therapy, assisted self-discovery sessions, small groups also in this kind of dynamic and dimension, this self-inquiry, rainbow bridges. Yeah.
Rainbow bridges?
Not this upcoming year, but potentially the year after. That's something to look forward to. And that's always in person, and that's over the course of a year. And that's a deep dive with all of these tools and different kinds of immersive practices where we really get to dive in and work with each other in some of the foundations of being a guide. And being working in relationship in this way. The couples is a month long, 7 modules, and some of them are over the course of a weekend, Friday night, Saturday, Sunday morning, and then we have one where there's a week in between each two, and then the last are sandwiched also Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. Breakout groups, homework, sharings in the group. There's opportunities for counsel, for people to come with what they find in their experiential group, and then we get to unpack it together. And the power of the group itself, I know it could be like, whoa, that's so vulnerable, to like be bringing our stuff in front of a group of people, and it could, but oftentimes in these kinds of dynamics, it actually is so incredibly healing, because the container itself, there's like a group genius that happens working with groups, that being seen and held by the energy of the group is so impactful and supportive for that work. So
huge. Well, we're going to have the links to this program right here in all the show notes and on the website. But tell people where they can find you, your website and on the internet or social media?
So our couples course is hosted on our new offering, our new website that is for our shared work going forward. We created wheeloflife.us. So you can find the couples course on wheeloflife.us. And then my website is Roger Ingraham, INGRAHAM.com. And
illuminateyourtruth.com is me. And then the
Antonia.
rainbowbridges.com is also for the Rainbow Bridges.
Yeah, we'll put all your links and all your social right here in the show notes. Antonia and Roger, I cannot thank you enough. I'm so excited for this new offering, and I can't wait to see how it expands. I personally believe that this is the kind of next frontier of where we need to go as a society on so many levels. And the work you've been doing has been so amazing and helpful for me. It's been life-changing. All my clients know about your work because I'm like, oh my God, Rainbow Bridges. And, the work we've done one-on-one has just been so incredible. So I cannot recommend their work enough. Everybody, please be sure to check this out. And, maybe if you can't make it to this cohort, maybe get in touch with them and be added to the wait list for the next cohort. You never know.
Yeah, it's filling up. We have about 4 couples so far. So
oh, wow.
Yeah. So we're excited.
That's quick. Save me a spot. Making the public shout out that I'm saving a spot for me and a lucky man out there. Taking applications now.
Yes. Thank you so much, Beth. This has been so fun, and always love diving in with you and exploring this all. Love you.
Thank you. And thank you for your unique medicine.
Love and appreciate you so much, Beth, and your soul and your commitment towards service and a higher vision for the world.
Mm-hmm.
I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you're feeling inspired, I'd appreciate it if you showed your love with a review. And check out my YouTube channel where you can find the video version of this podcast. You can also head to bethaweinstein.com to learn more about me and grab my free business growth trainings. Remember, you carry your own unique medicine, and your medicine is what we need for these times.